And now, if we're all done, we will move on to the next item.
Next item is approval of minutes. Approval of minutes of the following Dearborn Board of Education meeting. Executive session, closed property, December 10, 2018, Board Report 1876. Regular P12 meeting, December 10, 2018, Board Report 1877. Recommended action, make any necessary corrections and move approval of these minutes.
And yes, you are all excused.
Mike, did you use your gavel?
All right, yes.
Support.
All right, then. Are there any corrections to the minutes? No corrections to any of the minutes?
He's looking at trustee Lane.
All those in favor? Say
Aye.
Any opposed? Then we will attach a unanimous roll call to the minutes.
All right, special reports, we have bond update, Dr. Glenn Maleko and Mr. Thomas Wall.
Yep. Give him a chance.
What's that?
Give him a chance to.
We can keep on going. I mean,
Well, we'll have, to- we're going to have, we're getting into, we're going to have to call for
5-minute break or?
What is it?
extended time.
Too early for that.
Just move slow.
All right. All right, thank you, everybody. We're going to talk a quick update on the bond program that we're developing here. Just as a quick note, it was very inspiring listening to all those students talk, and express their beliefs and truths. It was very nice to see. I even did Bye Bye Birdie when I was in high school, and so that was a long time ago, but not a lead role. I chose the role that was in the background, so I can understand that. All right, on the budget update, our budget bond update, budget date's till next month. As you remember, back on December 10th,
Can I just call?
Yes.
If I can ask everyone who is looking to leave, because we have to continue conducting business, if you could take your conversations outside into the hallway so that it doesn't feed into the tape, I would appreciate it. Thank you.
so I'm going to quickly go through the timeline so you kind of get an update where we've been and where we're going. And if you have specific questions, I do have Paul Wills here today from Plant Moran Cressa, who's helping lead this aspect with the district. Back on December 10th, you approved the contract for Plant Moran Cressa. We sat down with them and went through a lot of things of what we're expecting, what happened in the past, how we got to this point of the overcrowding back for last year and a half, and actually dealing with the infrastructure task force. So starting this week, they've worked with our operations staff, and they've developed to make sure they understood all the parameters and the buildings and their current status. And with that, they're starting to go out to the buildings this week. So starting January 14th, as you can see, they're going to start with the high schools. Those are our largest buildings and have the most complex systems, so they're going to start with the high schools this week. Next week, the January 21st, they're going to work on to the middle schools. And starting January 28th, they'll start working with having review meetings with the principals and kind of starting putting the report together. Starting in the week of February 4th, they're going to start working with the kindergarten or elementary level buildings with the idea that by February 18th, we're going to start bringing them back in, and by late February, actually start putting the report together of our needs. We've already done that internally, but it's good to have it vetted by an outside independent source, and they're also going to put it in the format that the state of Michigan requires to make sure they understand what our bond program is. So starting in February through April, that's when you're starting to get some more detailed outputs of what our bond program can look at. You'll have to start making decisions of how we're going to do this. Administration is going to be working with them to kind of prioritize the needs. We do plan on having an approach like we did with the boundary adjustments of giving you choices. So looking at different choices to kind of look at, so what program you like and don't like. And one of the questions that was brought up is whether we actually need to go back out to the public. We did have an infrastructure task force that was made up of the public. So that's something we'll have to discuss later, of how we have any community forums at this point and how we put this bond together. And then looking at in the late May, early June, to almost to July time, so we're actually going to submit it to the state, look for the pre-qualification status from the state, and eventually bring it back to the board for final approval to put it on for the ballot. So I didn't read every line, I kind of paraphrased it as we went through.
So we are talking about a November ballot.
Correct, a November 5th ballot, yes. So, again, I'm just trying to give you a quick update. I didn't go through all the dates because you don't want to sit me and let me just lay some line after line after line. But if you have any questions at that point, we're welcome to entertain any.
Does anyone have any questions?
I know it's been a long day.
Everybody wants to move along.
So, but we will be coming back every board meeting, kind of give you an update as we go along. So you have plenty of opportunity. Okay?
Okay, great.
All right, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. And thank you for being so patient.
Not a problem. Thank you.
Next item, please.
Next item, we have action items. Special consideration of an action item. Are there any agenda items on this agenda which board members or the superintendent wish to discuss and vote on separately? If there are, we will exclude these from the motion below. All right, oh,
Trustee Lane?
I'd like to ask a question about number 3. I don't need a separate
need it
vote.
polled.
No, I don't need it polled, but at the end.
All right, do I hear a movement of the action items?
okay. So I should read.
Recommended action.
Well, wait,
Recommended
yeah.
action item. Move that the action items numbered 1 through 15 be approved as recommended in this agenda.
So moved?
Support.
Would you like to have your question now?
Okay, so number 3 is Playworks, and it's an agreement to have a contract with Playworks. So I would like to ask Dr. Maleko, I mean, the whole idea of having to teach kids how to play seems a little bit counterintuitive to me. Kids should teach adults how to play, and the world would be a better place. I mean, kids have been passing down childhood games for thousands of years, so kids know how to play. We don't give kids enough unstructured playtime, and I understand that the importance of physical education and all this. I'm just concerned, number 1, is this replacing noon hour supervisors, gym teachers, social workers? And I did talk to Dr. Maleko about this before the meeting, but I'm not opposing the contract, but I would like more information on this topic.
And I could just say that it definitely wouldn't be replacing any of those. This is additional support on top of, and this part of this is through, and they can speak to through a grant, but we also started it, it was Dr. Chokol and I 3 years ago at the State Superintendent Conference, learned about the Playworks through other districts, and there was money available through the Ralph Wilson, we've actually commented on it here, who owned the Buffalo Bills, and his wife, he's since deceased, but a lot of the money has been left that has to go in the Metro Detroit or Buffalo area. And so they visited McDonald, and they've really kind of taken the lead with it. And so most of the schools have gotten grant. They can speak to the specifics, but it would be an addition. And I can tell you, I've been in there myself when I've gone in. And so they actually go right into the classroom at times, and it's these extra resource support from Playworks that come in, and they do these activities, and the staff are into it. And I've seen the students, but it's definitely not replacing any of the staff that you
Yeah, it's like a
mentioned.
directed play.
It really helps the students negotiate rules together and learn how to work through, you know, when you were little, you'd negotiate the rules, what's out, what's in, and all that sort of thing, so that they can play together, but in a harmonious, respectful way.
And coaches are on site providing training for the students and modeling these appropriate behaviors through the program as well.
Is there some reason this is only bilingual department that is benefiting from this? Is that because of the monies, or is that where it was cited best? I don't know.
Well, the funding is coming from Title IV. It's not necessarily bilingual.
Okay.
And there were buildings that were already, had Playworks in place. And then when we received this funding, but that funding gets approved in December, based on the description of the Title IV funding, Playworks fell under that category because it's for more like at-risk buildings.
And is it at all of our buildings or specific buildings only?
There's specific buildings it's at for the year because these buildings had already expressed interest in it previously.
When I looked at their website, I see that they're a nonprofit, and I see that they use AmeriCorps volunteers or AmeriCorps staff, which I know is usually exiting university graduates. Are we using any of those people? Do you know?
So it is a nonprofit organization, and it does bring in its own staff, and they're on hand at the sites.
Okay, well, all well and good, I guess. It's always good. I mean, we have an obesity epidemic in the United States, so it's a great thing to have kids outdoors more. And physical education is important. It's another thing that we've kept in our schools and haven't cut, in spite of a lot of pressure just for academics. So I'm not opposing it, but I'd like to understand this better.
Sure.
So, Dr. Maleko, I know some people, President
Healthy
Petchikoff, you're
Dearborn
familiar with
has
it, but
looked at this.
I'm not.
We had a presentation. You are correct about the obesity, and actually a survey was done in the city of Dearborn by some students, some college students, and found what our levels are within the community itself, and it was high. And quite frankly, one of the things that one would hope would develop from this, which it is like directed play where they teach the students how to do organized playtime activities, is that when they're not there after school and whatever, that this will carry over so
Right.
that they will continue to be active on the weekends and after school hours as well, and they will do it in a way that will be in a manner that is engaged play rather than just out there, running amok in the neighborhood.
Well, Dearborn is a city that's well-sited to it because we do have
We
a
have
lot
lots
of
of
parks.
neighborhood
And we have a
parks.
lot of pocket parks, and I really
correct.
appreciate the city of Dearborn. That's one of the reasons that I moved here with my family. And I know that I saw my kids for many, many hours out arguing, standing mostly arguing on the front lawn about the rules of everything, so I get that. It's a good thing, but I'd like to understand it a little better.
We can get a report, or I'd also, if anybody's really interested, the best place to go to really learn about it would be McDonald. And in fact,
Yes.
some of us
Yes.
were on the Care to the Core bus
Right.
that day. If you recall, we went and McDonald was one of the stops, and us as administrators, and Dr. Mead, you might recall, you were on the bus. I can't remember who else was there exactly, but we actually got involved and started, we got involved in the activities when we came off the bus. So that's where probably the best place, and it definitely,
Absolutely.
it's had a positive impact. So the question is, do you have the resources to expand? So we've done some training at general administrators, but there hasn't been a full district commitment because most of it has come through grant funding that actually the local buildings have taken the initiative with. It really hasn't been a central office per se initiative, although we're supporting them with that. So, but we can definitely get you more information into our report.
Sure.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, we have a motion and support. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Say no. All right, then, the motion passes with unanimous roll call.
Summary of agenda action items, approval of warrants, approval of financial institutions, designations and practices per Board Report 1879, approval of an award to Playworks, approval of a contract to EDU staff per Board Report 1880, approval of lease agreement to AT&T and New Singular Wireless PCS, approval of a contract to Foresight Design, approval of a contract to Water Management, approval of change orders per Board Report 1882, approval of a contract to Johnson Controls, Inc., 9 through 11, approval of non-instructional and instructional personnel items for P12, approval of financial statement, approval of policy updates for Henry Ford College, and approval of donations.
Thank you. Next item, please.
Next item, get into it right now. Discussion items.
That has been tabled.
That's been, Mr. Mashur had asked to move that back to the February.
Okay, Board of Education business. First, we have acknowledgment of correspondence.
I don't think, other than the multiple emails we received in regards to the Stout Theater Group. Anybody have anything?
We received some gifts today from administration. Thank you.
Well, we already acknowledged that today.
All right, board member committee on organization reports.
Trustee Lane?
Well, I'd like to serve on the City Relations Committee. I mentioned that last year, but I did speak to Dr. Maleko and Dr. Chokol. We have a task force on Read by Third Grade, and I don't think we have a board representative to that group. I'd like to volunteer for it. I don't know how many more meetings there'll be, but I do think that it's an important topic. I want to be sure that Dearborn is out in front, since we as a state, our state will be looking at how we all do with our third graders. And I think that intersection of education and politics could be something important. I want to be sure that we're making our best efforts. I would be glad to volunteer to do whatever I can.
Thank you for
So,
volunteering, then we'll put your name down.
okay. It's not really a committee, but
Right.
I thought I'd bring it up here.
Do we have any committee reports? Do we have any committee meetings? All righty. Next item.
Board member and superintendent commentary.
I'm all commentated out. Trustee Lane, or Barry?
I just want to take a moment here and thank everybody for all the love and prayers and support this past week. Most of you already know I lost my mom last week, so I am thankful to Dr. Maleko, President Cavaluna, my colleagues, administrators, and a lot of the school employees in this great, generous community. So we needed all the prayers and support, so I am very thankful to everybody. Thank you.
Trustee Barry, I think, again, I want to express my condolences for your loss. I know that Trustee Barry went to Lebanon, came back, and we did have a meeting.
Yes, which I do need to thank everybody for attending a study session we had last week.
And Trustee Barry was not with us at that time because of the passing of his mother. So we are sorry for your loss,
Thank
and we
you.
thank you for
Appreciate
your
it.
service for
Appreciate
being
you.
here.
Thank you.
Our community experienced around the same
Multiple
time
losses, yes.
multiple losses, one of which was the Abbas family, and in which we lost a family, a whole family, at one time, beautiful parents and 3 beautiful children, due to drunk driving. And I think that it did send a message to all of us. One, I feel like with these tragedies, our community grows closer together. And it was, as tragic as it was, I was so proud to be part of a community with all of the losses, to see how we stuck together as one family. I'll tell you this, I can never look at a drunk driving case the same again. And it was tough. So I do ask that our students be careful out there, and our parents to be careful as well. And my prayers are with the families and with you, Trustee Barry, and hopefully we can move on
Thank
from
you.
this stronger as a community.
Trustee Lane?
I thought of something last month. I neglected to mention it. I just completely forgot about it. I would like to thank the Dearborn Police Department. The project that was in front of Stout Middle School finally wound up, and Oakwood Boulevard is now safe to drive on
Yeah.
again. It was just
The
a mess.
intersection is free to...
Yeah, it was a mess down there, and we're really lucky that our city and our police department and our schools cooperate as well as we do. So I'd like to thank them. And I'd like to just mention one other thing. I remember when our district made Martin Luther King Day a day that we took off. I know that I asked one of the guys that was on my son's basketball team and said, well, why do you think this is important? We have lots of holidays. And he told me why it was important. And then our district did pass it. I'm very proud of the Student Advisory Committee deciding to take action. The college usually has a big day of service, and really that's what we should be doing. We should be celebrating democracy, we should be celebrating civil rights, and we should be celebrating service to others. So with that, I want to thank the district. I want to remind everyone it's a big thing that we adopted this as a national holiday. And this year, just something I read in one of the NAACP newsletters is that this is the 400th anniversary of the first enslaved African coming to the United States, arriving here 400 years ago. It's a sad anniversary, but a happy anniversary is this year, the 65th anniversary of Brown versus Board of Education, where everyone's education should be equal. So something to work for.
Thank you, Trustee Lee. Trustee
Just a couple
McDonald?
things. Commenting after what Trustee Hamud had said, I also want to give a little shout out and a thank you to Congresswoman Debbie Dingell for trying to move some legislation forward on drunk driving, so we appreciate that. I also want to thank the community and the voters for once again electing me to the board and showing that they have confidence and trust in my abilities, and I will work very hard for you.
Thank you. Welcome back.
Welcome back.
Any other comments? I just want to thank all of the board members who were in attendance last Thursday. We did have a study session about Robert's rules so that we all understood the process here at the table. I was probably selfishly for me more than anybody to make sure that there were no missteps in running a meeting. But also we looked at our bylaws that both college and P12, which mirror each other more than not. And moving forward, we're all ready to go into the new year with renewed spirit, I hope. And I wanted to remind everyone that we do have a board retreat for the college on Saturday, 9 o'clock, bright and early, people.
That's not
And
in
we'll
our
move forward
meeting dates.
with topics for our college needs. Thank you. Next item.
Requests for information and/or future agenda items. Okay. Next is future meeting dates. Tuesday, January 22nd, 2019, HFC meeting at 7 p.m. in the Rosenau Boardroom at the Administrative Services and Conference Center, Henry Ford College. Monday, February 11th, 2019, P12 Board of Education meeting at 7 p.m. at the Administrative Services in the Frank Franchi Boardroom. Monday, February 18th, 2019, at HFC meeting is at 7 p.m. in the Rosenau Boardroom at the Administrative Services and Conference Center, Henry Ford College.
We are adjourned.